And the reason why we're going so deep into this is literally from the one obscure line where Ahsoka went, "The heir to the Empire." Like, I gasped in the trailer when she said that. So all this information is just because of that one line. Hey guys, Isabel here. Welcome back to Reelden. Today is a very quick Dyad discussion, or more likely a Dyad freakout over the Ahsoka trailer. My friend Connor is here with me again. Hello, Connor. Thank you for joining.
I'm very happy to be here. Let's talk Ahsoka.
Ahsoka! We have been waiting for this literally for like 2 years. And it's coming to us in August.
I can't wait. I want it right now. I want it
right
all
now.
right now.
The trailer was released technically yesterday, and then people at Star Wars Celebration got a little bit of an update on it today. But it looks amazing. It sounds amazing. This is probably one of the few times I've gotten emotional, like, over watching a trailer for something.
This is the most excited I've been since, I think, The Force Awakens. And then Clone Wars came out. I'm like, oh my god, again. And then it was like, all right, cool, content.
Yeah. Well, I think why we're so excited is because, Ahsoka, her character, as well as the series, encompasses like what you and I grew up with in terms of Star Wars. So we were born like a bit before the prequels, which we both enjoy. And then, you growing up watched the Clone Wars. I came in a little bit later with Clone Wars, as well as Rebels, but still, like, that new content of Star Wars happened during our generation. So the fact that we get a series that continues our favorite character of Ahsoka, plus bringing in, things from Rebels and again the Clone Wars, is just, I'm just so excited. Like, that's our Star Wars.
and Legends stuff too.
And Legends, yes. I'm so excited.
But I think we're also a little bit conditioned since we've been at the last two celebrations. We've been privy to some of these things and being there with that kind of energy. And when all of this is happening, when you have a project like Ahsoka that we've been waiting, like you said, for years for,
right?
But like, yeah, if you told me 3 years ago that we were getting a live action Ahsoka series, I wouldn't have believed you. At such an interesting time in galactic history and an interesting time, I think, for her, especially post Rebels. I have no idea what to expect, although it scares me that Hera said, be prepared for the worst. No, I want to be prepared for the best. I want to be prepared for a good time.
Yeah, so if we just want to like kind of quickly go through the trailer of the things that we saw, in a way, it
looks
kind of
awesome.
She does. They fix her like
She looks amazing. And I know that's something Rosario's talked about, and she said that literally the technology didn't exist. So she's calling people like me out on their bluff. I'm just happy that they were able to figure it out for the show. It looks amazing.
Discovered the new techniques that weren't available when they were shooting, season 2. I'm just happy.
Like, even in Book of Boba Fett, she looked different, and she looked, in my opinion, better. And now she looks perfect for the show. And
perfect.
Rosario has, at least performance-wise, has been amazing since day one. So I love that too.
And based off of what we've seen so far, it in a way looks like, obviously there's been years that have passed, but it looks like we're picking up almost where we left off from Rebels. Because the end of Rebels, Ezra, in order to defeat Thrawn, calls the Purgles, and they all speed away. They get stuck in hyperspace, and they're somewhere, we don't know where.
Somewhere in the unknown regions.
Yeah, and Ahsoka is looking for Thrawn. I'm assuming because she's also looking for Ezra. I know she's looking for Thrawn, and I think the reason why the rest of the Rebels are coming into the series is because they're looking for Ezra. They want to look for Ezra. So their motivations line up. The reason why I think Ahsoka is mostly looking for Thrawn is because she's sensing these like new dark forces, and probably has made a connection. Again, the trailer was like 2 minutes, so I'm reaching a bit, but that's what I'm getting. That's what I'm feeling.
Yeah, that's a lot for a teaser. That's a lot. It could pick up where we left off. It could even be before or after that, because there are a couple things that suggest a difference in time. One most striking, I think, being Sabine's long hair. So seeing Sabine,
I was shocked.
But her very, very long hair,
still colorful though.
Still colorful, suggests that a lot of time has passed, or it's a little bit before maybe where we see Ahsoka going to actually recruit Sabine and maybe she cuts it. You never know, because at the end of Rebels, she has that really short purple pixie cut.
Mm-hmm.
But they both made a promise to go look for Ezra. And I think, kind of like you said, the fact that the last that we see them, they're together, I think their motivations sort of intersect a little bit, because I feel like Sabine is more worried about finding Ezra.
Mm-hmm.
You sort of get that from their relationship throughout the show. And then, you see that little bit where she's looking at a hologram of him,
Right.
the last time that she had seen him. I'm not sure, because you also are led to believe that Thrawn has actually physically returned. So one way or another, wherever Ezra took them, wherever Ezra and the Purgle took him,
Mm-hmm.
he escaped.
Yeah, we did see him in the trailer. The updated saw his face. Lars Mikkelsen is going to be playing Thrawn.
Oh yeah, the panel.
Yeah, the
Because
panel.
I saw a couple things I was supposed to see. Don't come for me.
But yeah, we see him physically, and we also know, based on what was shared in the panel, that we are getting some returning characters. So Magistrate Morgan from Mandalorian
Morgan
season
Elsbeth.
2. Yeah, she works for Thrawn. She's very devoted to him. We get some new characters in the trailer, some Dark Force users who are apparently working with or under, I would suppose, the Magistrate. So technically also under Thrawn. But those characters intrigue me greatly. They intrigue me greatly.
Who are they? What are they?
They're not Inquisitors.
Yeah. Well, they're definitely not Inquisitors, because we see an Inquisitor, or at least a pretend to be Inquisitor in the teaser, that the rest of it, that everybody was able to see.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting, because this is like, unless that's like a flashback, which I don't think it is, that's way in the future.
Yeah.
That's way, way, way in the future, because Inquisitorius developed not long after Order 66. I think at this point we're getting close to sequel timeline. So this is like 25 some years in the future.
Right.
And if there's still Inquisitors running around, or at least people who are nostalgic for the Inquisitors and wearing all of their stuff and wielding their lightsabers.
And I wonder if, that dark force that Ahsoka is sensing. I don't know if it's them. Like, I don't know if it's completely those two characters. I feel like there's something, bigger and badder that has not been revealed to us just yet. Like, I feel like they're going to cause problems for her, and they'll be connected to it in some way. But as of right now, I'm not super sure, like, how.
I don't foresee them as, I could be wrong. I don't foresee them as the main threat. I see them definitely as like the side villains. So I think Thrawn, and him being the heir to the Empire, I think that's a darkness that she senses, because the Empire was run by Palpatine, who was a Sith Lord, but didn't have to be for it to be a dark time for the galaxy. So I think Ahsoka being more insightful as she is, I think that it's that overall resurrection of the Empire, and somebody as dangerous as Thrawn. Because I watched some interviews, and I don't remember who said it, but somebody said that Thrawn doesn't have to be a superpowered being. He doesn't have to be a Sith. As a matter of fact, he goes out of it. I think it was Lars. He goes out of his way to repel those sorts of things and to outsmart his enemy. And since you have read the original
Thrawn
books, you would know, how conniving he can be.
He is
dangerous. He can be.
He's very conniving. That is one thing, because I think I read the original trilogy by Timothy Zahn before I watched Rebels. And, there are things that Rebels does really right, and there are things that I don't think it does. And I think Thrawn was one of those things that it just didn't get quite right. Because in the books, and I know these are considered legend books now, and that there's a new, trilogy, or 4 books actually, I think, with Thrawn that are considered like in canon. I haven't read those yet. They're on my list. But he was like, in the book, he was kind of like the Emperor, in the fact that he was always one step ahead of everyone else. And he knew what a person or a species or civilization would do, their future actions, based on their art alone. And so
you don't appreciate art.
He always had like a counter plan already thought out. So in the books, he has a bodyguard. I think he like contracted a species, the Nogri, as like be like working for him, that can be considered really vicious. And then in order to protect himself from having the Force used against him, he went to a planet and took this lizard-like creature. It has a really long and hard to pronounce name, but basically that creature creates a force bubble around them that blocks out someone's force ability. And that creature was always like near him or wrap around his shoulder. So he made me so angry. And again, if he like hardly ever raised his voice, he hardly ever had to like he just commanded the room by walking into it, essentially. So, and the fact that Timothy Zahn is a consultant for the character of Thrawn in the Ahsoka series just excites me, because, you know, he's an expert on Thrawn. I'm excited for the characterization of Thrawn in the series. I think it's going to be done really well.
I think there's something that I think in this series might make it make sense, that the characterization in Rebels, it doesn't quite fit your preconceptions of Thrawn. And again, I haven't read Alliance either. I don't know if that sort of is any different either, but I feel like, considering there is so much of that Legends content that is being repurposed in this era, it's very interesting, because I thought they were going to sort of retcon Thrawn, but with him being away for so long and then coming back in this post Palpatine era, you know, not only is that genius in terms of like repurposing it, but like he has nothing to lose. He doesn't report to anybody. Palpatine is gone, so he can do whatever he wants. He can be the Palpatine type person that he's always wanted and arguably meant to be. So I think we will see some of what you've been missing, you know, other than Rebels being, you know, a children's show and they can only do so much. Yeah, I think we're gonna see some stuff that you're probably gonna like.
Yeah, and even in the original books, like it was after the Emperor was defeated, so it was still like a post Emperor situation, and in fact kind of played off like the remnants of the Empire, specifically like the dark side of the Force.
So you know a little bit more than I do, just because you've read the originals. And I didn't do any Wikipedia reading, because I actually do want to read the books. But you know a little bit more about maybe the origin of these two dark Force users, Shin and Baylon.
Possibly. I'm not sure if they're just using the original trilogy to base Thrawn's character, or if they're kind of taking inspiration. Yeah, or if like how much they're taking out of it. Yeah, because at least Baylon, for his characterization, could have been inspired by another dark Jedi in the series. So it's actually a clone of a dead Jedi Master, Joruus C'baoth. I don't know how to pronounce his last name exactly, but yeah, basically this clone guarded one of Palpatine's like mountain treasures on Wayland, and Thrawn basically convinced him to kind of work under him, because in the book it's described that the reason why the Empire became so powerful and won all these battles, and at least in like aerial dynamics seemed quite coordinated, was because the Emperor, with all his power, was able to extend the Force and kind of control, you know, movements, and even control like the commanding officers' minds, like their next decisions, you know, during these battles. That's why Thrawn wanted the Dark Jedi to sort of replicate that power. Thrawn convinces, let's call him Joruus, to do that by promising both Luke, Leia, and at that point, Leia's unborn twins to become like the new dark apprentices of Joruus. Joruus is also crazy. So like he's lost his mind as well. That should be noted.
That so Thrawn, because they wanted to kidnap Leia's unborn children, right?
Yeah, and Leia, because you know she's carrying them.
It's wild.
Yeah, so that could possibly be a character that has been taken inspiration for him, as opposed for Shin. I'm kind of wondering if she might be based off of Mara Jade, because she is in that trilogy as well. And although she
think about that,
I believe she does. Like she's one of those characters that like toes the line. In the books, she was known as the Emperor's like right hand. So
the Emperor's hand,
yeah, the Emperor's hand. So, you know, that could be a possibility. Her and Luke kind of go back and forth a bit. So not really sure. But the first book in the trilogy, the Heir of the Empire, does end with Thrawn being defeated and balance being restored for a very short period of time. So he does get outsmarted eventually. So I'm curious to see how much they may or may not follow his Thrawn storyline, like from that original trilogy. And the reason why we're going so deep into this is literally from the one obscure line where Ahsoka went, "The heir to the Empire." Like, I gasped in the trailer when she said that. So all this information is just because of that one line. Are we going too deep into it? Probably, but it's still fun to do so.
Well, it's like that, and then in Rebels mentioning Malachor 5.
Mhm.
Like for Knights of the Old Republic fans, that's huge. But again, that is something that I think Dave is so good at, is trying to adapt Legends stuff. And there's always a bit of truth in Legends. That's another Ahsoka, a quote by Ahsoka. But I think being able to do that and then adjust it to what is now in canon and with these new characters. Like, I haven't read the books, but just like throwing Ahsoka in there instead of Luke and Leia and Han and your original trilogy heroes. It's just very interesting.
Fun fact, actually, the planet Coruscant is first introduced in that book and then later used for the prequels.
Didn't know that. See, you're ahead of me. You're getting ahead of me.
Just in this one obscure part.
No, because you actually read. You actually read. I don't read all that often. Yeah, I'm very curious to see where this goes.
There is also another situation that happens in the series. Again, it's been a while since I might have to reread because it's been a while, so I don't remember how this ends. But Leia, she senses throughout the story echoes of the Emperor, of Palpatine. So like if she'll pass through a place where he may have exhibited like strong emotions or just spent a lot of time she'll hear something from him or get like the feeling of him. So, Ahsoka's been feeling some things. Apparently, it's been teased that she's going to have a very strong relationship with Ezra. If that plays out similarly, that would be kind of cool. Or if, the dark forces play out that way, that would also be pretty interesting. So you never know. But this whole force echo would also tie into Jedi Fallen Order.
Oh, the psychometry.
Mm-hmm.
So that also makes me wonder if we'll ever see Leia at any point, because we have Luke. Also, in one of the comics, so that it's actually canon too, that Leia still has that ability, because in one of the canon comics, she goes to Naboo and she senses echoes of Maul. She goes like, "I feel cold," and then you see like a flashback of his eyes, right where he stood, and it's the first time you see the double-bladed lightsabers, and it's that whole iconic moment. But like, she feels it. So it'd be interesting to see if there's any interaction between Ahsoka and Leia. It's been suggested that Luke and Ahsoka have had more than just the one meeting that we've seen in Book of Boba Fett. Like,
right,
that's not the first time they met. Because there are, aside from Ahsoka, running the show, there are a lot of really strong women leading this show. The fact that you have Sabine and you have Hera, who is now a general in the New Republic.
Yes, she is.
And I mean, I sort of knew that, but
and that was sort of like teased at, but to see that explored further, I think will be really interesting.
I think to see it in live action and to see it in something that is a little bit more out there, because you hear in Rogue One, if you listen carefully, you hear General Syndulla to the briefing room, General Syndulla to the briefing room, but to have her, at least for an episode, it looks like run the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to remember that the timeline of Ahsoka corresponds with The Mandalorian. So, these two things, because the galaxy is so big, these two things are, happening simultaneously. It could be a possibility.
And she's running things too. Leia's busy. Leia's very, very, very busy in the next 30 years, not just having a kid.
Yeah. But we get to visit the world between worlds. That's a concept that has hardly been touched upon since we got it in Rebels. So, and Ahsoka is the perfect character to explore that with. And her and Baylon are fighting in there. I don't know if you noticed in the trailer.
Yeah.
So how did they get there? Why are they there? Who is he still?
It also doesn't seem like a high, at least the way that it's framed there, it doesn't seem like a high stakes fight either. It seems more like just a showdown, kind of similarly to Ahsoka and Morgan Elsbeth, right? She could have taken her out.
She could be trying to get information from him. That's why she took her time with the magistrate, because she wanted to know where Thrawn was. What are your opinions on Baylon and Shin possibly being Imperial Knights.
So that was my first thought was, oh, they're going to retcon the Imperial Knights. That would be cool. That would be awesome. But because I had not read the Thrawn books, I didn't know about the Dark Jedi. So I think that is more plausible because the Imperial Knights is like hundreds some years after Battle of Yavin. Like it's a very different era. The Imperial Knights aren't exactly Jedi, but they're definitely not really Sith. Except for like a couple of instances where some of them get like corrupted by the dark side. But I thought that's where they were going to go, partially because of the way that their armor is built up. So the Imperial Knights have like this layered, they're like stormtroopers almost, except it's like a crimson. But the way that like their pauldrons and their shoulder pads and all of that stuff is layered is kind of similar. So it could just be an aesthetic similarity, whether that was intentional or not. I don't know. I was kind of hoping that like maybe that would be a possibility or something that Ahsoka would come up against, but I'm okay if it's not.
True. They could be combining, again, if they're taking as much inspiration as we think / hope they're taking from the books. It could just kind of be like a combination of a Dark Jedi, but also like an Imperial Knight, just kind of combining them.
Yeah, because the Knights, like I said, they weren't like Darksiders, or they weren't supposed to be. So, and they had white lightsabers, kind of like Ahsoka has now. So I think it meant something very different. I just didn't know if they were going to do something that like I had thought of, like if you had just like taken that and completely just flipped it on its head and threw it in a different era, like what would happen? I think
We'll
the Dark Jedi is more plausible, but we'll see.
Who had the orange lightsaber? Because I rewatched the trailer like a bajillion times, and I don't know if I'm slightly colorblind, but I swear they were red.
No, it's orange.
Both of them?
It looks orange.
So they look red to me. They don't look orange.
I don't know. I'm colorblind. And
But you're not the only one who said they were orange. A couple other people said that they were orange as well. Like they were all excited about it.
Well, I'm thinking that it's supposed to be because they don't have that white core. I'm wondering if they're either taking aesthetics from the Old Republic role-playing game, which has a very different aesthetic and it gets to explore a lot of different things like different core colors and all of that, or if they're doing that to distinguish that it isn't red.
But either way, I'm super excited. No matter what happens, theorized or not, I'm just so excited.
I want to know.
I need it right now.
Give it to me now.
Well, I think I talked about all that I wanted to talk about. I guess just some other things I'll just quickly mention that was supposedly seen in the panel trailer. Spoiler in case you guys don't want to know. Sabine holds Ezra's lightsaber, which I am not ready to see.
How did she get it?
Like, we get some speeder chases on Lothal, so we'll be visiting that in live action, which is fun. And Thrawn's face. Yeah, that's pretty much it. There's probably a couple other things, but since I wasn't at the panel, I can't tell you guys for sure what was extra. I'm so excited for them. Shin more so than Baylon. I feel like she gives a very like traumatized vibe a little bit. Like she's been through some stuff mentally. So I'm here for it though. But yeah, that's all I had to say, unless you wanted to add something else besides your immense love for Ahsoka and the series.
I think it's just, it's mostly just that we could go about that for hours, but I'm very excited to see Ahsoka. I'm very excited to see obviously Rosario take up the mantle, but to see what's going to be a little different, whether that's like an acting choice or if that's like a character necessity, like how Ahsoka has changed. Because there's one thing that I think Dave reminds us is that Ahsoka is very different, even in Rebels, than when we last see her in Clone Wars and even where we see her in her own book. She's a very different person. So I'm very interested to see what that may entail. The whole I am no Jedi line, he says, take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Take that with a grain of salt. It's more just for dramatic effect, or it's what she believes in that moment. It is, but it isn't,
She's also been so many different things in her life. Like the trailer said, she's been an outcast. She's been a Jedi.
She's been a rebel.
She's been a rebel. So I got a little teary-eyed when I saw those words flash on the screen. I can't wait. I just can't wait.
I know Star Wars has no right to be making me smile the way that I've been smiling on this day.
Well, guys, that was our discussion on the Ahsoka trailer, what we think will happen, what we think the trailer images meant. Connor, thank you so much for joining. Always fun to talk to you about Star Wars. Be sure to leave a like on the video. Comment, are you excited for the series? The answer better be yes. And what do you think will happen? What do you think we'll see? And be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future Star Wars reaction videos, Star Wars discussion videos, and on the occasion, Star Wars updates videos. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.